I've been sick the past 2 days. Some coffee. I just burned my tongue. Welcome guys to another video. Now this video I've been wanting to make for quite a long time now. Every now and then, a great athlete will retire and the city and the team will honor them by giving them a bronze statue, typically right outside the stadium. The face looks just like the athlete, and other times, especially recently, it seems like every single statue ends up this way. It looks awful. What happened? How could this have happened? They worked on it for months and months and months. The athlete, I'm sure, had to give approval, and the final product just looks off. It looks awful. Oftentimes, you'll see a bunch of memes flying around. A lot of times, people who end up complaining about the statue say the phrase, well, I couldn't have done better, but I know it just looks wrong. Well, I'm a sculptor. I've done athlete portraits before. I've done other people's likenesses and faces before. So I think I'm coming from a different place than other fans of the team or the player just critiquing the sculpture and just making fun of it. I don't want to do that. I'm not going to make fun of these sculptures. I essentially want to make this video to kind of dissect what I think happened, where the artists might have went wrong, and how they could have done it better and ultimately come up with a better result. I hope to make this into a series because I do want to delve deep into it, and I don't want these videos to get too long. So I'm probably going to break it up per sculpture. But for this video, I am gonna react to probably the most viral sculpture that was released last year. And that is Dwayne Wade's Miami Heat sculpture.
That looks like him. That does not look like him.
It's a great moment, well deserved, but I mean, you know.
Who keep making these statues?
You could go forever before you guess Dwayne Wade.
Man, who is that?
It's not that bad, is it, Unc?
Well, I don't know who that is.
Nigga so Morpheus. That nigga look crazy. What the fuck? What's wrong with them niggas?
Disgusting. I don't know who it looks like. I know who it doesn't look
It
like.
looks more like my grandpa than Dwayne Wade.
You made an ugly statue, that's what it would look like. That might be D-Wade Senior. That thing's awful. It's not awful.
I would have cussed out everybody there. I would have went crazy.
All right, let's take a look at this thing. Wow. All right, D-Wade. Jeez, what happened to this one? This is crazy. This is crazy. Also, I have my iPad down here. I'm gonna be looking at photos of these statues and kind of breaking down parts of it that I think could have been better with my pencil. I'm on Procreate right now. Wow, this one, while doing research for this video, I came across, I think it was a New York Post article that they interviewed the sculptor after all the backlash this piece had received. And essentially the sculptor said something to the likes of, well, it has something to do with the finish. They put a finish on the bronze sculpture when it's done, and that finish can sometimes make parts of the face look shiny that aren't shiny in real life, and that way it kind of accentuates certain features of the face. So he urged people to go look at the piece in person before they judge it, and not just judge it in photo. Now, I agree with that about 50%. I do think these sculptures do look different in person, but that's not why this one doesn't work. I think a majority of people think this is just awful. And before I get to the face, which is an obvious issue here, I want to talk about other parts of the sculpture that I think could have been done better, that aren't necessarily, that haven't necessarily been talked about. First up, I like the pose. It's a good pose. Okay, this is kind of Dwayne Wade's iconic "This Is My Town" pose, which I'm a big fan of. It's a very dynamic pose. And where it falls apart is with the clothing. This clothing just doesn't make any sense. Now, cloth and bronze are two very different materials, and as a viewer of the art, sometimes we kind of underestimate how keen our eye is. Sometimes we know something looks wrong, but we don't really understand why it looks wrong. As a sculptor, I'll tell you why this looks wrong. The clothing is doing the pose no favors whatsoever. Clothing normally is much lighter than the person wearing it. So when there's an animated pose, the clothing reacts around 2 to 3 frames later than the limbs of that person. So what that means is that these shorts need to be moved. This one leg is higher than this other leg. So it does not make sense for the shorts to be level right here at that point. So what I would have done is I would have fixed the folds on this leg especially. It should have come up like this. Now, is that realistic? No, it's not. I saw a photo of his reference and the sculptor essentially just followed exactly how the reference looks. But again, it's moments like this where you have to be confident in your artistic decision making and do things that necessarily aren't in the reference just to make the piece better. Also, the folds are just way off. Some of them just don't make any sense, especially on this leg right here. Folds in clothing happen because there are attachment points separated by a point of conflict. So for example, if I take my hoodie, stitching happens on my shoulder and also happens on my wrist. All the cloth here is loose and it only moves where I would call a point of conflict. So if my elbow bends, then you see folds happening. The depth of the folds and the amount of the folds, like volume of the folds, are determined by how close they are to that point of conflict. So at the elbow, they are more, and by my shoulder, they are less. But all the folds originate, as you can see, from my shoulder. On these shorts, a lot of the folds don't have an origin point, like these folds right here. They essentially are supposed to start here, but they don't. They kind of just end up doing their own thing in places like this and this. Normally for shorts, it's on the waistband where it's a point of origin, and also in the crotch area, he's supposed to have folds that come like this, right? But they kind of just do their own thing. This is less of a problem on the actual jersey. As you can see, there's like a stitch line that comes from the side, and these folds end up actually making more sense. Now, I do think he should have upped the contrast with these folds and added more depth to them, because right now the jersey kind of just looks like it's stuck to his body and it removes from the overall dynamism of the pose. He looks very static and he kind of just looks like bronze. Now, I know the artist was following the reference, but again, bronze is not cloth. So if you try to make bronze look like cloth, you end up losing some of that dynamism that comes from the pose. There's a couple other like anatomical issues, especially with his shoulders. This connection point makes no sense here. His chest should be brought forward, and this line makes no sense there as well, anatomically. That's not how a person's chest is supposed to connect with his shoulders. It's because of this that people were saying that his shoulders are just too big. His shoulders are not too big. They just don't make sense in relation to his chest. So it accentuates his shoulders, making them look too big. But I'm sure proportionally, the measurements aren't off there. Again, it's just a sculpting error. Now we get to his face, the big topic of controversy. D. Wade is a good looking dude. Dwayne Wade is a handsome guy here. This is the reference that I'm sure they went with. Oh. And you look at that, and it looks nothing, they look nothing alike. And it's not a finish issue on the bronze. There's just major anatomical errors that are going on here. I'm going back to the photo of the Sculptor studio, and I don't know if he had more reference than this, but you see the reference images he had? He had 1 to scale image of the sculpture he's working on. He had several photos of D. Wade in poses that do not relate to the final piece, which is not good. And he had several other poses and photos over here. I don't know if he had more than this, but this is all I could find. If I am doing a statue of an athlete, especially one that's bronze, I'm letting the athlete know exactly what I need. Communication between the artist and the client is super, super important. And it is a skill that I think a lot of artists neglect, and overall their commission work ends up suffering because of it. I'm telling Dwayne Wade day one that I need photos of you that do not exist. And one of the most important things when making sculptures is lighting. and studio lighting in general. If you're making a sculpture of someone's likeness, you need to have very, very dynamic lighting in your studio, lighting that you can move around and change, just so that you are certain that this sculpture's likeness is just like your client from every single angle. Who's texting me? Okay, as you can see from his studio, he does not have that. He has one pose with very static light source, and the lighting in his studio is very flat. That's where anatomical issues happen. I'm telling Dwayne Wade day one that I need you to shave your beard, make your face look just like what is in the reference. I'm setting up a photo session. Now, I'm a part-time photographer, so I know how to do this, but if you're just a sculptor, you're gonna hire a photographer to do this. And you are gonna hold this pose, and I am going to take 360 photos of you all the way around of you holding this pose, holding that face with overhead lighting. I'm gonna do it again with frontal lighting, backlit, literally every single lighting scenario that there is. I'm gonna do 360 photos of you holding that face. That way I have your face at all angles, at all different lightings. And I'm setting it all up on a wall, and I'm sculpting based off that. Do not sculpt based off measurements. A lot of times, sculpting ends up becoming more of an illusion, and measurements can go wrong there. Because what looks right on the measurements ends up looking wrong in person. And this is what happened to his face. Like, immediately you can tell that this jawline is probably the third strongest jawline in the history of humanity. First is probably the Great Khali, and then we have maybe Jay Leno.
What did he say fuck me for? Now they fucked your first baby.
And Dwayne Wade's statue is right there. I mean, this thing is ridiculous. Dwayne Wade's jawline is not like that. As you can see, he has some fat here, and that is just too much shadow and very little clay that's over there. So immediately, there should be more clay right there. And his jaw here should have been pushed up to about there. That's the first thing that's wrong with it. If you look at it front view, Dwayne Wade, again, very, very handsome guy, but he has kind of like an oval, round face, and his cheeks are really, really full. His cheeks aren't super defined there. So there should be way more clay here and here. That would reduce a lot of the wrinkles and take away the criticism that the statue looks like an old Dwayne Wade or Lawrence Fishburne or anyone like that. Also, in the photo, he's kind of bald, so I don't know why they gave him such a strong hairline in this piece. Again, you look at this, there should be more clay right there. This jawline should not be as defined, and this should be elevated. That is what's wrong with his face, in a nutshell. Jeez, this is just bad. This is just so bad. So again, if you look at the studio photo, the artist doesn't have anywhere near as much reference as he should have, in my opinion. And if you ask Dwayne Wade, hey, I need you for 2-3 hours. I know he's a very busy guy. I need you for 2-3 hours. I need to get these photos of you to give me better reference. I'm sure he would have agreed. Again, this is his statue after all. But yeah, man, it just sucks. This just sucks. And again, a lot of people that look at these statues, they know something is wrong with it, but because a lot of them aren't artists, they don't know what. So they just know it looks off. This looks nothing like D. Wade, which it doesn't. But they can't express and put into words exactly what is wrong with these pieces. I hope I shed some light on it. Again, this is just gonna be the first video. I hope to do more of these. There's a lot of bad bronze sculptures out there, and yeah, I hope this gave some perspective as to what I think went wrong and how it could have been done better. His mouth makes no sense. His mouth looks completely different. Where is this sharp edge? Right there. The shape of his mouth is totally off. His chin is also off. His face should have come like this, not like this. What is going on? What happened? Genuinely, what happened? No one. Man. Anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope I gave you guys some insight as to what I think happened. Again, I'm gonna be making more of these. There's a lot of bad sculptures that I do want to talk about. So make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified every single time I post a video. And as always, have a great day. Bye.